those are largely for surreptitiously taking crotch shots at people when you're on the subway or whatever, right? Like it's mostly a recording device.
But the light comes on, Bob. You can't do it.
Well, I'm sure that you found a way around. Pretty clever. Cast Iron Brains, a podcast about what seems to be an inverse relationship between the material wealth of the average human living on Earth and how shitty everything is all the time. My name is Bob, sitting across the way from my good friend and co-host. That's Abe. How you doing tonight, Abe?
Doing well, Bob.
Yeah, here we are. Lori's here too. How you doing tonight, Lori?
I'm fine, I guess.
Lori's fine. She guesses tonight is Tuesday, October 14th. 2025. Did not have time to record multiple podcasts last night, so we're here on consecutive nights to bring you the all-important flagship podcast of the Brain Iron multinational media empire. Abe, you have a good day? Good day at work as an essential IRS employee?
Yes, another busy day at work, doing stuff and whatnot.
Work from home or work in the office today?
In the office,
Could not catch up on months-old CBS morning show?
No, I was not able to. Speaking of which, over the weekend, we had a lunch set up with the majority of the family. There were 8 of us. That's not enough to fit everybody in together because there's like 1 billion people in my family. The flimsy occasion was the new job that one of my brothers got to start working as a producer for CBS Local.
Now, what do you mean there were 8? You had 8 spots at a
we went to some
reservation or something? Or?
We went to some steakhouse, Fogo de something.
You and your steakhouse. Did you suggest the steakhouse?
It was not.
You've been on quite a steak kick lately.
I have, but surprisingly, no, this was not my idea. Someone else in the family suggested it. I was like, and I was all for it. Thumbs up.
Sure.
I was like, yeah, that's a great idea. I missed the last quarter of the Colts action for it. And so anyways, I thought this would be a great opportunity for me to work in Mark Strassmann in. Like, I know he's a CBS National, but he's based out of this area. And as I was explaining this to my brother, he looks at me and he says, "Who is Mark Strassmann?"
No fucking way.
And I'm like, "What do you mean, who is Mark Strassmann?" It's like, "You don't know who Mark Strassmann is?" It's like, no, I don't. I mean, even though this is probably... You should have taken the napkin out of your lap, slammed it dramatically onto the table, stood up,
slap him with the napkin,
slapped your brother backhand across the face, and said, "You may contact me again when you have listened to the last 250-something episodes of my podcast."
That's right.
Which includes an extensive documentation of the work of the great Mark Strassmann.
That's right. His defense was that CBS News is for old people. Now, mind you, he's going to be his new employer, but this is his opinions off the record. Hopefully, no one catches on to this. But I'm going to have to start feeding you some Mark Strassmann content because I'm sure he'll see him at some point and needs to get ready to see who he's standing in front of, in the near future. But
man, I hope so much that he gets. You say he's a segment producer for CBS News, something like that.
CBS, yeah.
It's going to turn out he reports directly to Mark Strassmann. He just doesn't know who he is.
I don't know what's going on with the local affiliate ecosystem. There was some stories made about the Jimmy Kimmel situation where some parent companies did not air his show and blah, blah, blah. And they were kind of talking about how the local affiliates are losing steam. Where our local affiliate here in Atlanta decided to stop their contract, to not renew their affiliation with CBS. So CBS is creating its own local station here. So kind of almost like a franchise model versus a corporate model. If there are certain Fox local, like the Fox local here in Atlanta is owned by Fox National, but that's not always the case. Sometimes they do partnerships with local affiliates, and that's what CBS had, and they decided to end their partnership with a local affiliate and create their own CBS station in Atlanta that's going to be owned by CBS National, and that's where my brother's going to go work for.
So, yeah, I mean, he will be almost certainly in the Slack channel with CBS. I mean, maybe not like I'm sure there are dozens of different, but like in the general.
Yeah, yes. So, like, it's important that he knows. It's like, hey, old man, I need you for this hit by the CDC. He should know who he is, who the old man is, before he starts giving him directions.
Very important. All right, well, that's good. Family dinner at a steakhouse. That's pretty good.
I've never been to a Fogo de Chao.
They have a weird system to where they have I don't know if it's different in other locations, but the one in Buckhead here in Atlanta, they have a card, and it's like a green, give me more, and red, I'm full card, and then you flip it to the side that you want to be fed. So basically, it's a 2-tier system. You go get salads and just random food on your own, but all the meat
buffet style.
Yeah, buffet style for just everything that's not meat.
Okay.
And then they come around you with different types of meat, cooked in different ways, and they'll just come over your shoulder like, you want some of this? And you're like, yep, feed me.
I do want some of that.
And they cut some. Now, initially you're thinking, okay, I can keep up with the pace, but they start to kind of overwhelm you. There's like 20 of them just circling around this table.
Is it a fixed price deal?
Like basically, there is, I think it was like 65 a pop. They have different like tiers, but that's like the most standard one.
Right.
And so basically it's just, until you're full. And they just kind of come around until you kind of flip the card over and say no more.
Nice.
I was able to keep pace, but some of the lesser siblings gave up pretty early.
What's going on with us?
Just baseball.
Lots of baseball. My son, they're getting older this month. At the end of the month, both of the children.
They get older every day.
Sure, but they, the old number flips over here at the end of the month. And
he's going to be 13.
He's been begging.
He's a teenager? Wow.
Not yet. He's going to be.
He's going to be. Yeah.
Oh boy.
He's yeah. You enjoy that?
This is going to be a fun few years.
He's become fixated.
Fuck you.
He's become fixated on getting a communications device of some sort, and he thinks that he can get past my barrier to that want by focusing on a watch, like a watch that talks to other devices. Like there's this product called the Gizmo Watch 3, which is the one that he wants to get. And he's also like very casually mentioned, that his buddy has an Apple Watch and that sort of thing, because they make them for children also.
His buddy who has 2 working parents and 2 other brothers.
Okay.
So like his buddy who sort of has more of a necessity for a communications device.
Right.
Has one.
He is, to be fair, he's the only kid in his friend group that doesn't have at least something like a walkie-talkie watch, right? A messaging watch of some sort.
That's remarkable. At 12, all his peers are already ahead of him.
All of his closest friends, except one, has a phone already.
Wow.
Including the one who I was like fairly certain we were going to.
They were like nothing till 17.
Yeah, I thought that we were going to be like in solidarity with the no phone situation for at least a few more years.
So you guys stand alone at this point.
Stand completely alone at this point, and what I realized, and I don't think that he's quite realized yet, is that he is not fighting a battle against me. He cannot win a battle against me in this case. The will is too strong on my end, the stubbornness, the firm belief that giving him one of these things would be bad for him, body and mind and soul. This is a sincere belief of mine.
Yeah.
But the battle that's difficult is me against myself, right? Like that, the true battle of wills here is me against my own hypocrisy around these devices. Because it's not so much that I think that he needs one, it's that as long as I continue to rely on one, it makes it harder for me to say, no, you stupid shit, you don't need this, and I know that it is bad for you, so I'm not going to give it to you. But also, as I've said on this show many times, I know that it is bad for me the way that I use this device, and and I've gotten better. I think that it sort of comes and it goes. I got rid of Twitter, I don't know, a year ago. I don't know how long ago it was.
You give me 5 minutes with your phone, I'll fix your notifications, and you will be a million times better.
Yeah.
Just give me 5 minutes with your phone.
You also don't really appreciate the fact that, yes, my notifications pile up and I often just ignore them. And you think that somehow simply having the notifications there is the problem. No, it is that I have trained myself that just because the Washington Post has sent me a news alert, I don't have to actually go read the entire fucking
You've
article
also
the way
trained
that I used
yourself to ignore a notification sound like your wife texting you.
Yeah, sorry.
So if you give me your phone and I can make the notifications the only thing that matter, a notification must be something and not, it's probably Substack. Like, just give me 5 minutes.
Right.
1 minute.
I don't want that. I like the idea that I am ignoring it more than I like
You're
the
ignoring
idea.
me.
I'm not. Calm down. It's all fine. Anyway, the point is, am I going to be able to maintain my firm stance against giving my children communications devices? Will I just simply live in that hypocrisy soup for the next few years? Or will I sort of find another new way to interact with this thing? And I realize, like, most of what I'm using it for these days is as a podcasting device. And what I would love to be able to give him right now, and what I've thought about giving them as, like, for their birthdays this year or maybe for Christmas, is like they're at the age where music, for me, was incredibly important, right? Or is beginning to become incredibly important, certainly, where it went from something that was just sort of fun to something that, like, I started to derive meaning from, like an
identity,
an angsty fucking teenager,
right.
Falling in love with various sorts of music, rather than just a child listening to Ace of Base and Boys to Men and having a grand old time. But in order to do that, I either have to give them like a boombox for their room, and then give them, because like they don't even make iPods anymore, right? You
or
can't
something
really
similar to that. There's no product.
There's no Microsoft Zune anymore either, right? Like there's no, I don't know if they make MP3 players that are just MP3 players. And also, I don't want them to have...
You can't get MP3s. You can only stream anything.
Right. I don't want them to have MP3s. I want them to have physical media and to listen to an album and, see what that's like.
They're not going to do that.
Well, I think that's asking too much. Like the physical media. I mean, is there not a way to come up with But
if I want them to have the relationship with music that I think is a healthy one,
they're not going to. They're not you.
They don't have to be me. We did this correctly for generations.
Right.
Yeah,
right?
but that's not what we're doing anymore.
Right, and it's shittier. We're proving it with the Billboard Hot 100 game.
Yes.
We're going to prove it later tonight when we look at the Billboard Hot 100, and the first 12 songs are all entirely forgettable Taylor Swift songs,
right.
Because we're making lifestyle brands out of these artists instead of asking them to be real musicians with an artistic, authentic point of view.
Right.
That doesn't mean that there aren't artists on the Hot 100 chart that aren't actually doing that. But also, what it does mean is that is not the thing that makes people popular anymore, right? Like it is not the thing that matters. And I think that it's probably harder to find artists on the Billboard 200 that are meaningful in the way that they were meaningful to us back then, but that doesn't mean that it's impossible.
Right.
And I think that a way to cultivate that relationship with that sort of media is to make it a piece of work, right? A work of art, the way that a CD or a vinyl record can be.
Sure, but so much of what matters at their age, and it's going to matter way more very soon, is social relationships.
Right. It's all connected to the current environment that they're in, which is different than the environment that we were in. Are you concerned that teenagers, such as they are, this idea is gonna of like prescribing the manner in which they discover music is gonna backfire, and they're gonna get into like K-pop just to spite you? Like, you're not worried that the way that if you're like, this is how it should be done, and they're like teenagers and like, no.
I'm not forcing certain kinds of music upon them. I'm saying that having YouTube as your primary music source or making Instagram or TikTok your primary way of consuming music, it impoverishes your experience of that music. The medium matters in that case a great deal. And I think it's undeniable, right? Like I don't think that anyone can sincerely argue with that point of view.
Right.
No, I'm concerned that they're going to be kids who don't have friends because they're not communicating in the way that the friends are communicating. Like, they're going to be the fucking weird kids who didn't have TV.
All right, I was the weird kid who didn't have TV.
No, you did. You watched The Simpsons.
No, not at home. No, like I got The Simpsons. I didn't.
I wasn't the weird kid who didn't have TV.
You had to sneak out to watch The Simpsons, Bob? You had to
No,
go.
but we didn't have I wasn't allowed to watch it at my mother's house. Like growing up as a child, we didn't watch The Simpsons.
Oh, wow.
I got to watch it later. I would watch it at friends' houses, or I'd watch it in reruns. In my teens, I watched it a ton.
I see.
Once I was sort of out from under. But when I was Calvin's age, I'd probably seen, I don't know, half a dozen, maybe a dozen episodes of The Simpsons. I was a late bloomer to all of that stuff because it wasn't stuff that I was permitted to consume.
What were you guys watching at that age? Like America's Funniest Videos or something?
Yeah, literally like America's Funniest Home Videos and whatever was on ABC's TGIF.
Oh, okay.
And then
Yeah, but that's TV.
like the X-Files and
No, that's TV.
No, I know, but we didn't have cable and
That's not what I said. You're not that. You had TV. I'm talking about the fucking weirdos who literally were not allowed to be in society with everyone else because their parents were probably wackadoodle Christians.
Okay, that's not what I'm talking about.
But I know that's not what you're talking about, but it is akin to like not letting them communicate in the medium that their friends are is bordering that. Like they will be ostracized.
And I'm not convinced that it's not better to be ostracized in that fashion than to be ostracized in the way that you are ostracized when you're in the in-group and you're being tortured by your fucking friends. It's not the in-group.
It's just regular society.
It is. Right. And you think our children are going to be ostracized.
I think if you don't let them communicate with their friends, yes.
You know, that's the part. So, like, you know, these smartphones, there are a lot of distracting elements to it. But at its core, it's a communications device. So, like, is there a way to have the communications device without all the negative stuff like social media and other things? Because like,
that's what we're trying to figure out.
If they're
with
trying
the messaging.
to like,
I can't figure out how they're messaging.
Right, like if they're trying to like,
because they all have fucking phone numbers. Because they all just get smartphones. So, like, the answer is no, and the real answer is that they will find a workaround for whatever device we put in their hand.
That's true, yeah.
Like, no matter what you do, you're still going. I mean, we could get them old Nokia flip phone, or you buy them old Razors or something, and get them phone numbers, and like force them to text with like T9, you know, with your thumbs or whatever. But like, what is that accomplishing exactly? And why? Why is being in the group chat in which nothing of consequence is being communicated? Because to me, it's not like the telephone before either, right? Like we could have a home phone number, and if they want to chat on the phone, they can chat on the phone all they want. But it's like I just don't buy that it is to the good to have your idiot 10 and 12 and 13-year-olds in group chats with each other. They're not. That's not a proper way to socialize them either. You can't tell me that it is. We've never done it this way before.
Right.
It's just never been done this way.
That's true,
before.
But all these kids are doing it now, so that's
right. And I watched them walk down the streets with 3 and 4 in a pack with their heads buried in their fucking phones, and I think, what the fuck are we doing? And then I think, like, what's wrong with me? Right? Because half the time I'm doing that, I'm only looking up out my kitchen window from reading an article on my fucking phone to watch these 4 idiots walking down the sidewalk, staring at their phone. Right? And so, like, what the fuck is wrong with me? But it's so clearly no way to be a child in the world. It's barely a way to be an adult human in the world.
No,
Never mind a child in the world.
No, I just know how important it is to socialize when you're a teenager. It's all that matters. Biologically, all that matters.
Yeah, that's the trick, right? I mean, are you willing to hamper this childhood experience, Bob, for this larger goal?
If the larger goal is to create well-balanced and good human beings, then yes. Is that even a question? What is the great experience of being a teenager? It mostly sucked ass.
But it just
being a teenager.
It's supposed
and you know what I did? Because I couldn't socialize in the way that some people did. Like, I wasn't free to just go down to the rink on a random Thursday or Friday night the way the cool kids did and hung out. So I found a way to socialize with my friends in a way that was socially compatible with the way that my mother was trying to raise us in the world. Right. And they will similarly find that way, right? I would chat on the phone. I would go to my friend's house. We would play outside. We would sit in his basement. Whatever we were doing, it was not what other kids were doing. It didn't make it particularly weird or out of step with everything else. To us, it was just normal.
Right.
And that will be their experience of the world. And there is simply no convincing. I know these idiots. I hang out with 7 to 12 and 13-year-olds like 4 or 5 or 6 times a week for hours at a time. They have nothing intelligent to say to one another. There's nothing of value that is being exchanged on the devices.
Your original age was 16, right? You're holding on to that? You're going to wait until they're 16?
I think that until you're driving, I see no relevant use for
they're going to have when they're in marching band in their freshman year of high school, there's going to be communications that happen to them. Or they will be missing the thing.
I think it's so one of Calvin's buddies is on middle school baseball or various baseball teams, and one of his coaches texts him the practice plan beforehand. And that like blows my mind. First of all, why does this dude have your kid's phone number? Right. I'm sorry. Maybe it makes me a paranoiac. That's fucking weird, right? And I assume we trust all of our baseball coaches, and that's all well and good. But like, what?
Right.
This is a person that coaches baseball. He sees your kid 3, 4, 5 hours a week, and you're going to give him access to him and like constant access to your kid's pocket? That seems fucking crazy to me. And why does the 13-year-old need to know that we're doing hitting drills followed by pitching drills at practice tonight? Like what good is that to the child? Show up. Do the work that you're told to do. You don't need the fucking plan. You're 13 years old. I don't have to give you an itinerary.
Yeah, that's a little weird.
And like, if the marching band needs to communicate with the child, they can do what has been done since fucking 1935 or whatever. Tell them ahead of time, or send a message home, or call the parents. What does the band coach have to say to the trombones that cannot be communicated during band practice?
It would not surprise me if there's some sort of cockamamie safety provision to where like they actually want the kids to have the phones like when they enter high school because, you know, to reach out to them or whatever. There's gonna be some like if your line is at 16, I'm gonna pound the under. There's no way that the kids are gonna go until 16 without some sort of communication device. There's going to be something when they enter like freshman year. What's that? 14? When do kids get into high school? 14. Like that's going to be
14 or 15.
Yeah. That's the window where they're going to start having phones.
I don't know where. I mean, I'm very hard-headed about this. I recognize that, but I have so much trouble identifying the good here, and they are already friends with the kids in their neighborhood, right? Like literally one of the reasons that we like living in the city that we live in is that we can live in this neighborhood and there are half a dozen of their best friends are within easy walking distance of our house.
Right.
Like, what do you mean you need to text your friend who lives 3 doors down the street before you go throw a baseball with him? Pick up your mitt and go knock on his door. Like, what are we talking about here?
Right. Your situation is pretty ideal to kind of hold off on the technology. So, like, if it doesn't work here, then it can't work anywhere. Because most other people, their setup is
they're not going to only be friends with the people they're friends with right
true.
now.
Yeah. Yeah, when the circle of friend widens beyond 3 doors down, then...
Right, I know. But, I mean, that's the other thing, though, is that their lives are so busy. Like, it's not like there's all of this downtime where he could be texting with his buddy right now about the baseball game that's on. Like, I guess in theory that's what he's missing out on.
Yeah, like if they're all watching the baseball game, all having a chat without him.
They're playing video games and watching TikToks and YouTubes and sending stupid videos and memes to one another. Like, it's just not, I don't know part of it is that I just do not accept that the way that children interact with the technology is at all good. Like, I have not seen evidence that the way that that children in particular, I mean, and also the vast majority of adults, right? I don't even consume the products on my phone the way that the vast majority of adults do, because I've taken all of the socials off of my phone, right? And so do I read too much news? Do I pay too much attention to the notifications that pop up? Do I spend too much time now browsing the Substacks that I've subscribed to? I suppose, probably. But at least I'm not this constant. It's a constant tidal wave of short form video that is like eating brains alive. The way
That's awful.
The way that we interact with these things is leading to, and there's a lot of talk about this, of course, online. But we're headed towards a post-literate society because of the way that we interact with these devices, where we're just getting these 60-second or 30-second or 2-minute bursts of
it's bad.
Of visual media. It's always narrated, and to the extent that there's anything literate going on there, it's just the words flashing up on the screen. And all of them have to be short and immediately comprehensible, and there's no depth to it whatsoever.
No,
you are immediately on to the next thing.
Yeah. No, I fully agree
what's
that
fully deranging about it is
stuff is bad.
Is that it combines the fact that I could be getting a text from my best friend, or I could be getting an email about the death of a relative, with a billion things that don't matter at all, right? Like it's this weird complete collapse of everything in your life into this one device, so that there's just no distance whatsoever between the stuff that matters and the stuff that doesn't matter. And the result of that is that the stuff that doesn't matter sometimes gets mixed up in your stupid psychology as stuff that matters a great deal, and the stuff that actually matters a great deal is immediately washed away by the next thing.
Right.
But that's why, I mean, I think that
and so I don't want to put it in the hands of my fucking 13-year-old.
Yeah.
Right?
So I think a zero tolerance on social media makes sense, but a zero tolerance on a communications device makes less sense to me.
It's all social media is the problem.
But it's not. It's not. It is if you let it be, but it's not.
The New York Times is on its way to becoming TikTok.
Okay, but texting...
The Washington Post is on its way to becoming TikTok, the way that they present their stories.
Well, yeah, you have to meet the consumers where they are, right? That's kind of the unfortunate thing. Like if people are not digesting information in the way they have in the past, you're still trying to make money. This is a for-profit endeavor, right? So they have to kind of cater to that. And so, I can see why they would do it that way. Are you concerned that whenever they make first contact with this environment of social media, because eventually they will, 16, 18, at some point they're going to be on.
It's also going to be like a forbidden fruit thing.
Right. And so, I, when I was younger, I did not partake in the imbibing of alcohol, right? And it's not like those years of not drinking in high school and college staved off any sort of early wobbly behavior, right? So even at 27, there were moments where it would be something that you would do as a sophomore. And
why is this dumbass acting like a 15-year-old who's had his first 3 beers?
That's right. Yeah, so whenever you first come into contact with this, smartphone world, it's going to be a similar. I mean, it's better at 16 than 13.
I will say, though, as irresponsible as I was in my late teens and early 20s around my alcohol intake, it was better than it would have been when I was 14.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah, that's true.
Flat out, even though it was irresponsible of me the way that I drank in my 20s at times. I
feel like it's not even a good parallel because it's just...
Yeah, because you're on your phone at all times.
But the reason that I don't want to... So there are parents... This is a much longer standing issue than just the smartphone question, right? Everybody had parents or had friends who had parents who were like, yeah, I let my kids drink. They drink in our basement. I know where they are. They're going to drink anyway. I'd rather they do it in our basement than not, right? And so those parents Those were the parents that the cool kids would go hang out at, right? You could go get loaded at your friend's house. You can't tell me that that's better than me and my friends in my buddy's basement playing Nintendo 64 and not being loaded, right? It was the permission structure of those parents who insisted that, well, they're going to drink anyway, allowed for other groups of, not me, I was not one of the cool kids. I did not take drugs or drink in high school. But like plenty of kids did, right? Yeah. And they weren't just drinking. They were somehow they had access to the good shit that you wouldn't think that 14 and 15 and 16-year-olds would have access to. And like that wasn't good for them. Yeah. It wasn't good for them spiritually. It wasn't good for them. And I mean that. It's not nourishing in any significant way. And also it wasn't good for them physically. It's bad for the brain to poison a brain as it is still being developed. Yeah. Right? And I am not convinced that these things have been proven safe for the developing mind. Maybe not necessarily in a neurological way, but we are incredibly plastic at this age, right? And really for years to come, we remain incredibly plastic. My brain is still incredibly plastic, and I can feel the way it has been changed by these devices and not for the positive.
Yeah. No, I think you're ultimately right. It's just going to be challenging implementing this in this current environment with how people relate to each other and build and form friendships, from what I gather from a distance.
Yeah, it's especially, I let it go with Calvin. I mean, because I don't think he needs a phone. When it's Katie, the social stuff is so powerful. And we'll see.
You don't need, the good news is you don't need a ton of friends.
No, but you do need some. And if her current friends, I mean, you don't know what happens. They change and they lose closeness. You don't know what happens. But she can't only be friends with the other people that have the exact kind of parent that you are.
Yeah, and I think that
that's fucked up. That's worse than saying you're only friends with Christians.
I'm not saying that we are going to limit them to having. What I'm saying is that if your friends are going to ostracize you because you don't have access to a phone,
they do it. They don't do it on purpose. It's just what happens. If you can't communicate, you can't communicate. You're not in the communication. We'll see. With Calvin, I fully believe that whatever his friends are texting about is fucking dumb. But when she's 13, it won't feel dumb to her.
Right, and it's simply not fair to Calvin because he's missing out on the exact same thing that you were complaining about. I mean, you're full of shit. I know what you're saying, that it's different for girls, but it's not. It's the way humans socialize and interact with each other. I know you're saying it's more fraught or whatever because she's a girl.
There's more substance. Just look at just go to his school and look at a group of girls and look at a group of boys. There's a reason these single gender middle schools work so well. They're just different at that age. But we'll see, whatever.
It's just fundamentally, I don't know that I can model the sort of behavior that I want them to.
You don't have to.
I mean, yes, I think I sort of do, though. Like, I think it would be. I mean, I recognize also that to some extent it's like being a maniac who refuses to have a car, right? Like it's fighting against the infrastructure of everything, right? And you read these stories about people who go on 30-day phone-free binges or like do it as a sort of social experiment, basically. And it's like they can't do anything. Yeah. They can't get on the fucking bus, right? They can't figure out what the menu is going to be at the cafeteria or whatever. Like they can't pay for anything.
Right. Yeah, that's true. I have some friends who have made attempts to try to like use a dummy phone or limit the amount of times that they're on their phone, so they would get a phone that does like very basic things, like answer calls, texts, and then like GPS or something. And with the work issues, where like a lot of people get information through different means of communication. It makes it impossible to just have only one dumb phone. So they would get a second phone that's like a fully functioning phone. And at that point, now you're at two phones. You're trying to limit your phone usage and you're up a phone. Like, what was the point?
It's also a little bit like this thing you do with the trash and the broken toasters, where you see it as this like giant problem and you're not wrong about it. But us hanging on to broken toasters, them not being in a landfill, doesn't solve the problem. It just means we have 4 broken toasters in our house.
Right, but to me,
I know what it is to you. It doesn't help the problem, and I have trash in my house. It's the same thing. I wish I could take their friends' phones away, too. I wish that things were different, but I can't. Because that's not how it works.
Right.
So, like,
what's funny to me
please
is like
throw the toasters away.
I'm not a person who's like overly concerned with the loss of innocence stuff, right? Like that's coming. There's nothing you can do about that. I'm not going to be able to protect them from the world in that way. So it's not like I guess it's another thing you just have to like take my word for, but I'm not precious about their.
No, it's much bigger picture.
Right.
You're doing the thing you always do, where you're trying to solve the big picture, which is impossible to do, by making it hard for us and hard for your children. And it's like, well, but it's because I'm right. It's like, well, good for you. Moral victory. Miserable kids with no friends, who will blame us.
Okay, good.
She will be sure that, and I will take the side of I wish you could have a phone, but Daddy says no, because I don't want them to blame me for not having friends.
Right, and I think that's in all likelihood an irrational fear about their social potential.
That's why I'm not saying it to them yet. I'm keeping it to myself. I'm telling you right now. I'm not telling Calvin that now. Yeah. But like, they will be sure, especially Katie, you know she's going to hate you anyway. Yeah. Like, you're going to give her all kinds of reason to.
I can suffer that. Like, I don't see the teenagers are going to hate us no matter what. So that, like, that I don't, is not a.
But hating you and thinking and knowing that you're the reason that she's miserable are two different things.
Right. I would rather be the author of her misery in that way than be the author of her misery in terms of giving her the thing that is going to immiserate her anyway. Right? Like, because I know that will be the end result. They are immiseration machines when given to vulnerable people. It's what they are. Yeah. They're not joy-producing machines. They are boredom annihilation machines that just make you less of an interesting human being because you're none of the creative thing that happens. Yeah, but
they're going to be miserable anyway. You might as well give them the little things.
None of the creativity that happens out of boredom is permissible in the attention economy. Right? Like all I will have done is impoverished their experience of the world. And like, why would I actively choose to do that to my own children?
I mean, whatever. They can be
just
friends
to make life a little bit easier.
They can be friends with all of our like homeschool baseball friends.
Yeah, and I think that you can be in the world without being of the world in that way. I think that everyone has to choose the amount that they're going to be of the world
it's
as
just
they're
annoying
being.
Because their homeschool baseball friends don't go to school with them. Like, we'll have to drive
that's what
them
I'm
to
saying.
their houses.
Everyone has to make those. There are people who make the choice that we're going to homeschool our kids because we don't want them to be of the world.
Yeah, but I chose to live in a neighborhood in a city so that I wouldn't have to drive my kids 20 minutes to a friend's house.
I know, but that doesn't mean you have to. What I'm trying to express here, it doesn't mean that you have to sign up for the whole fucking thing just because you're signed up for 80% of it, right? Like, it shouldn't necessarily be the case that this is entirely a package deal. Like, we must still be the authors of our own lives to some extent. And in some ways, like, I know that starts to get really weird and big picture, but why have we handed over so much of our sort of authorial voice, our agency to these companies that do not have our best interests in mind. Right. Like it starts to get weird. I recognize it that as soon as I start talking in those sorts of terms, but like, why are we so beholden to Samsung and Google and Apple?
We are. I'm not.
I think. I mean, and also like at least our generation is kind of like a boiling frog kind of thing. Everything kind of happened very gradually and then suddenly. Like, you know, like 20 years ago, I guess Facebook was just getting around outside of the Ivy Leagues, and then it took a while to become a thing. You know, iPhones weren't even a thing 20 years ago. So a lot of things just kind of happened, and the internet got so fast, and all of these apps became such a everyday thing. Where like in the past, you would only your social circle of friends on Facebook and others were actually people you know, and it would be like chronological updates, and so like the environment changed. And you know, if you were just kind of like habitually used to opening these apps, you just kind of became, I guess this is the new way to go about it. But like if you're coming on now, like it's very harmful, but you kind of have to figure out a way to make it work. Like, because they're going to be on these devices in their later years of high school and into college and when they're on their own, right? So like you're staving off a couple of years of this impact, but it's going to happen. And then what are they going to do then?
Yeah. I also think it's the notion of the device is such a transitory. We're in such a transitional period here where this will not be a thing in fairly short order. I'm holding up my phone here.
What do you think will be the next? I mean, there needs to be some sort of device that can.
It's on your head right now. Right, like it's
okay.
They will be contacts. It will be an earbud. It will look like her essentially. I mean, I know you steadfastly refuse to see that movie, but what it's going to look like is a fully plugged in and seamless experience of interaction with a digital self.
Maybe it won't though.
I mean, I don't see how. I mean, I think that the devices will lose their utility the easier it becomes to manipulate them essentially with a flick of your eye or your thought.
Yeah.
Like and if you think it's bad now, like you're telling me that they can hook us. I who knows what the number is. I think it's something like 8 to 10 hours a day the average adult American is looking at a screen. Like it's something absurd like that, right? Like not everyone, like but like the median user or something is staring at a device of some sort for many hours a day.
Is that because they are doing it for their job?
Yeah, but yeah, so they spend 6 to 7 hours a day looking at their work screen in addition to 47 times an hour looking at their phone, right? Like it doesn't exactly drop the amount of times that you're looking at your phone just because you're at work.
I wanted to show you this, but it's sort of unrelated, but I kept forgetting. This is not for the podcast. It won't work because it's visual. The lady.
That's interesting.
Whatever. It's so fucking weird. Sorry. It was a diversion.
I forget what I was saying.
I'm sorry. It was about, we were talking about the phones integrated into our faces.
Yeah, how long? Yeah, they're gonna be like wearables and like contacts and things of that nature.
Right. If you think it's bad now, in terms of the amount of hours that we spend on the things when we have to unlock them and look at them and hold them up to our faces, like these companies are not going to be shy once they have the opportunity to simply be always on, right? Don't you have those Ray-Ban Meta glasses?
Yes, I do.
Somewhere. But those are largely for surreptitiously taking crotch shots of people when you're on the subway or whatever, right? Like it's mostly a recording device.
But you know, the light comes on, Bob. You can't do it without people noticing.
Well, I'm sure that you found a way around that. Pretty clever. But that doesn't give you a pop-up GUI, does it? Like it doesn't pop up a graphical user interface.
But the new versions, I think that they rolled out in the last month or so. I think that has some of that. Like it's not like how it's going to be maybe in a few years, but like they're already there to where you can.
Right.
And I mean, I don't know, what was it? 10 years ago they jumped the gun with a Google Glass thing. Like I think they've refined the technology enough to where they can try that again. I don't know. Do you think that will take over the phone, or will that be like, I think that'll be like a separate kind of
I don't think
thing,
it will.
right?
I just don't think there won't be any reason. It's going to be so trivially easy to display to the individual without that sort of a hardware device.
Yeah.
And I think this is very clearly a transitional moment. Like as we're building out all of this software capacity. Like the idea that Samsung or Google or Apple even is going to be it's going to matter in terms of a device in the future, I think is probably wrong.
Right.
Like I think that we will converge on a technology that works best for delivering media to the individual, and the idea of the hardware mattering very much is going to be a thing of the past.
Do you think we'll get to
I mean, you can see that just in the last 15 years, right? Phones used to be, you would like shop around and like you would go into a place and try out the device to see if it fit with the way that you wanted to use it, right? Like the form factor for all of these different devices was radically different.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point. There were so many different,
they've all converged on the aluminum slate and glass thing, right? And they try to branch out and like they make the foldable or whatever, and we sort of play with it a little bit, but it's all functionally the same fucking thing at this point.
And they still haven't figured that out. One of my friends had the foldable, and the crease issue they haven't fixed, even though they say they've tested it and there's not going to be like a noticeable crease. There generally is within the year. I do wonder, do you think we'll get to a point where with this ChatGPT era that we're into, a lot of people are going to use that as intermediaries, like when they're communicating, they're not actually...
Oh, yes.
Yeah, it's nightmarish. There's someone that I interact with regularly who very clearly, for anything that approaches official communication, runs everything through the robots. And it's disconcerting.
And it's clear, like you can tell...
Yeah.
Because, the thing is, there was a before and after. Like you can kind of tell how somebody communicates, and then the robot cleans it up, gives it shape, if you will, and it sounds different. But, like, at some point, if people start with the robot, then that's going to be their voice from the jump, and so you won't be able to differentiate. Like, this is... I guess when you talk to them, they're like, oh, this guy's a dummy. Like, how did he string those three sentences together? But, like, I think... going forward, people are going to be using that more and more to the point where, like, it's not clear that you're communicating with a human unless you're actually talking to them face to face.
One of the things that her gets sort of amusingly wrong is that the job that Joaquin Phoenix has is to write letters for people who cannot compose those letters themselves, right? So somebody hires Joaquin Phoenix, who works for this firm.
It's like a service. They just send.
Right. And so they send in, like, these are the details of my relationship with my wife for the last, this is our 40th anniversary, and I need a heartfelt message about our relationship, and I'm not capable of doing that myself in a way. And so it's like a personalized Hallmark card service, basically. So they send all of the relevant details into the company. Joaquin Phoenix reviews them, gets a feel for these individuals as best he can, and then writes a heartfelt message in the voice of the husband or the wife or whoever's trying to communicate, like the birthday message or the anniversary message or something like that. And it's funny, in part because it's like, oh, you think humans are going to be doing that? Like, I already have Google and Facebook working in concert. I mean, I took the Facebook off the phone, but like Facebook used to say, Bob, we care about you and your memories. Here's some bullshit that you wrote on Facebook 11 years ago today. And Google every single day, multiple times a day, sends me a Google Photos notification. Like, oh, remember when? Oh, they were so young. Oh, don't you love your cats? Here's 11 photos of your cats. And like a day at the park, and it will send me random photos of my kids at the park. Like it's already sort of doing that. It's already trying to become the emotional and psychological center of my day.
Right. My student, also receptionist / bridal coordinator at work, she's only 18, 19. and she does the bridal email, so the people are like, I'm getting married and they want to find out pricing. And she was writing an email and she was like, how do I turn this robot off? Because it's creeping me out, because I started writing and it's trying to finish the sentence for me, and it's absolutely how I write.
Oh, wow.
Like it's nailed it. And I was like, yeah, you just have to ignore it, because there's no turning it off. But she doesn't like it. She's young. You'd think she'd be like, oh yeah, perfect. People don't love it.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like, oh, obviously we're all just going to have chips in our heads and we're going to be communicating through telepathic text. Like, people don't like it.
Enough people will
cannot
like
it. Lori, you are the one who spent the last hour insisting that our children need to participate in the current mode.
I'm not insisting.
Or else be ostracized. And what I'm saying is, the device that's going to become the wearable that's going to become the implantable is the inevitable.
I don't think it's the inevitable
place that we're going.
I think
here.
it's an idea. I don't think it's what people will adopt. I don't think they're going to do it. I might be wrong, but I think I'm right.
Every time there has been an opportunity for there to be more television, humans have taken up the idea of there being more television. At no point have we collectively said, you know what? That's enough television. Right? And there was an article that the guy who does plain English, Derek Thompson, wrote on his Substack this week. And the essential point that he was making is everything is just becoming television again, right? And whether it's because the thing that we say about TikTok and Instagram Reels and other short form video is the exact same thing that people used to complain about television, right? And then when people were worried about television, what was the next thing that they complained about? Oh, that MTV with all of the music videos and the quick cuts, right? Like the music videos, it's a 4-minute video, but there are 147 cuts, and nothing can hold your attention for more than a second and a half. And it's like, okay, but what if it was 2 minutes and we had this program that literally cut out all of the silence in between each thing so that the person's head and their words would jump from here to here to here to here to here, so that everything could be just shoved down your fucking face and down your throat so quickly so that you can get on to the very next thing that is just more of the same garbage that you're immediately going to forget about. Right. So it's like everything from the New York Times, the way that they present some of their articles now, it's like, here's this vertical video. This could have been an article. Why do I want to watch this dipshit who went to Columbia Journalism School talk at me for 90 seconds when I could read an entire news article in that time and get far more information? And it's because our brains are just like conditioned to want more television at this point.
It's like irresistible. It's kind of like, the shopping, and a lot of people will decide based on price. Like if you told them like some Cambodian village is harmed by this, but it's like 5 cents less. Like if you pay 5 cents more per unit, Cambodian villagers are going to survive. People are still going to go for the cheaper price because like it's just an irresistible thing. Like you shop by price and then you consume by like whatever gives you a dopamine hit or whatever is easy, whatever is convenient, whatever fills up your idle time, so like that, you have to kind of like fight against that natural urge to, consume.
Netflix is now actively making programming that they want you to not have to pay attention to, right? Like there are notes that go around to producers that say, we need to make this so that this moment of silence either has a voiceover or has a character voicing exactly what is going on, because we don't want people to feel like they're missing out because they're looking at their phone as they're watching this thing.
Oh, wow.
It's so funny because I assumed it was because people are cleaning their house. That's funny.
Right. No, it is also that, right? Like people should be permitted to do their laundry and look at Instagram while you have Netflix on. Right. And like, it used to matter. Like Netflix used to try to make good things, right? Like when the value add of Netflix in your life was, hey, we're going to make like some HBO shit, but you're only going to be able to watch it on Netflix, right? And now the value add is, we just really want to be wallpaper that you keep on all the time and never really pay attention to, as long as you keep feeding us $23.99 a month or whatever.
Right, but they define success by how they can measure it, right? So like Netflix is what, like how many minutes or hours people watch. So it doesn't matter what they're watching. They just want that number to go up. And if that number goes up by having a lot of just noise, then they'll just make a lot of noise. It doesn't matter if the quality suffers for it.
Yeah. And I know I recognize all of this that we've now gone on about for an unforgivable amount of time is essentially just old man yelling at cloud, right? But like, clouds are a natural phenomenon, right? Like the climate is something that we endure collectively because we don't have control over it. And at some point in the not too distant past, it felt like we had a handle on all of this stuff in a way that mattered. And now the feeling is that none of us are actually choosing this, and that the people who voice concern about it are right. They know they're right, and they still cannot really escape it. Right? Like everyone knows, the people that know better all know that this is bad, and they still have to keep doing it because there doesn't appear to be any other way.
Would you rather have lived like 2 generations down the road and like learn from the experience of the people going through it now, or would you rather experience this transitional moment where you're going from analog to digital to like this all-consuming smartphone ecosystem and the challenges that it poses? Because like in a generation or two, people will learn, oh man, that was a disaster. Those Gen Z kids got fucked up, and
right. I think we are incredibly fortunate to be this, and I know that everyone thinks that they live at the end of history, or everyone thinks that they're living in apocalyptic times or in great moments of upheaval and transition. But like, I don't see how it can be denied that the people who are of our generation, born in the 70s or the 80s, and really, you could count our parents among this also to some extent, right. But the ones who went from an analog life to a life thoroughly dominated by digital media, we are unique in human history in the way that we have.
We're the best.
The thing that we have endured here, the thing that we're witness to. It sounds self-aggrandizing and self-important, but I really think that things are changing in almost unprecedented ways. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. All right. Quickly in the WGAS NewsBag, because lots of things have been going on. Donald Trump did not win the Nobel Peace Prize, and all of the MAGA people got upset about it. Donald Trump appears to have solved the Middle East. Congratulations. Maybe he'll get that Nobel Peace Prize next year.
Seriously, the timing.
It would help going forward to like not bomb boats. Like,
yeah, and Donald Trump also today bombed another narco-terrorist boat, so claimed by the administration off the coast of Venezuela. To me, all of these things are actually very clearly tied together, and they are tied together under the banner of, in an obvious sort of way, under the banner of the person of Donald Trump in a way that matters, because none of these things are precisely possible but for him. And I don't mean that in a good way, to be clear. I mean that in the bad way. When you put all of this sort of power in the person, right, in an individual, you have robbed it from somewhere. And the place from which you have robbed it is the institution, is the thing that is supposed to constrain and restrain and also give authority to our action in a way that matters. I think it's not exactly, obviously I'm being somewhat sarcastic, that he should get the Nobel Peace Prize for solving the Middle East problem. But also, everyone seems to be giving him credit to some extent for making this happen. I'm confused by that, because I think essentially that what's happened here with the release of the hostages over the last couple of days is a result of Israel's unbending attempt to prosecute this war against Hamas. And they largely stood alone in that effort. The United States under the Biden administration was at least publicly very skeptical of the stuff that Israel was doing, and would often, in the person of Jake Sullivan or other administration officials, not least of which was the Vice President Kamala Harris, express that they wish that Israel was handling this better or differently, or wasn't being quite so mean about the way they were prosecuting the war. And then in the person of Donald Trump, he similarly would scold Netanyahu for not simply doing this better or doing this less cruelly, or not doing it more quickly and getting it over with or whatever. Israel did this essentially on its own, and it wasn't pretty. It was bad. War is always unpleasant and bad, but also Hamas took hostage hundreds of people, and they made themselves someone with whom you could not have a good faith conversation with, right? They did an unthinkable act of war and took hostage innocents and children and women who were not party to any conflict, right, and then hid them in tunnels and largely treated them poorly. By all accounts.
Right.
They did a thing that was entirely indefensible, and so Israel reacted in a way, in my opinion, in the only way that they could. And could things have been better than war? Oh, yes. Yes, I believe things could have been better than war.
Right.
But war is bad, and it's always preferable that there not be war. And in the moment, at the very least, there's some sort of a ceasefire happening, and that is good. I'm confused that the New York Times and the Washington Post and a lot of American media is giving Trump the credit that he believes he deserves for this, but maybe I'm missing something.
I think, credit is cheap. Give credit to whomever. Like, it's good news that the few people that are still alive that were held hostage are released. Whatever the obstacles to this peace plan, like, it seemed like there was the stalemate to where, like, Hamas would not disarm, right? Basically, their position was that they were not disarm, and then Israel would not withdraw because they're like, we can't assure our safety in the way that it was before. And so, like, how do you find peace to allow for this release of hostages and like release prisoners on the other side with that stalemate? And so they concocted this multi-phase 20-point peace plan that, not to sound cynical, none of that's going to happen. Like, I mean, phase 2 and phase 3 are disarmament and full withdrawal, and another entity besides Hamas taking over. Like, none of that stuff is going to happen. But it was a workable fiction to release the hostages, and that's all that, get whatever you can, right? Like, you actually have human lives being released, right? And so that's good news. The bad news is, like, all of the elements that existed before exist now. I mean, there were, 2,000 prisoners released, and some of them were serving life sentences, right? So, like, the exchange was however many living hostages on Israel's side were released, and then they're supposed to release the bodies of those that did not make it. They haven't done that yet.
Right. So, in other words, just hours after the hostages are released, we're already coming up against the brittleness of this so-called peace agreement.
Right, but it gave enough time for those hostages to be released, and that's basically all you can assure, because this is like intermission in my mind. I think it's just the problems will persist because, again, like I said, Hamas has not disarmed, right? Israel, like, I think, moved a little out to the yellow line or whatever line they came up with. So they don't trust any sort of, like, disarmament until they see it. So, like, really nothing has changed as far as the sticking points, but people have been released, right? So, like, could that have been done before? Maybe, but it doesn't matter, right? I mean, they were able to do it now, and that's a good thing. But, like, there's no peace I don't see, because all of the people that created this mess are still kind of like, I mean, the elements are still there, right? So, like, those people that were serving life sentences, they go back to a destroyed Gaza, and what? They become accountants? Like, right? So I think they're just going to go back to what they were doing before, and it may take some time, but I think, like, the conditions are still there. So I don't know what has improved in this 2 years, other than just people being released.
Yeah. On the Venezuelan drug boat stuff, Trump, I don't think we discussed it, but the administration insisted that this is, like, they gave notice to Congress that effectively they're at war. Right. And he's claiming the War Powers Act to be able to do whatever he wants in terms of bombing all of these so-called narco-terrorist boats. And I would just, like, sort of plead with you, people of the world, you don't want the President of the United States to have the sole authority to determine who is and who is not a terrorist, and then allow that individual to prosecute a war against terrorists however they see fit.
Right.
Especially given that the rhetoric that comes out of this administration about being at war with the left, being at war with domestic terrorists, that like Antifa and people who were upset about Charlie Kirk, or were not sufficiently upset about Charlie Kirk's death, are somehow at war with the rest of us in the United States. We are on the verge. The administration already uses that in their rhetoric in terms of who is and who is not a real American. Right. It's so obvious to me, and it's not surprising to me because it's all a team sport at this point. But like how it is that the Republicans cannot see that it's not good for the president to simply have the unilateral authority to declare that this boat over here is a drug boat, and so I'm going to blow it up. Do you really want that in the hands of someone beside? Even if you like, and it sounds so fucking childish, but like, even if you think that Donald Trump is only going to deploy U.S. military might in the correct way and to your personal interests, surely you recognize that it's not always going to be Donald Trump.
Right. I think there is that recognition, but there just isn't the political power to do anything about it. Right. Like, if you are a Republican, this party has been taken over entirely by Trump. Right. So like, if you stand up against him over some boat that got blown off, it's going to be primaried, right? So, like, for political convenience, people are pretending that that is not a problem, which is, I mean, it's not good, but it's not like they don't see the problem. It's just that they're just willing to just let it slide. And they're going to, like, if a future president of another party did it.
So they give their teenagers the cell phone because there's nothing they can fucking do about it? What? Surely, like, they got this job in order to wield influence and power to some degree and have some...
Yeah, and they have it.
Right.
Rhetorical...
Yeah. The office that they hold is the power they sought, so they have it, and now they're trying to preserve it, right? I mean, they're not in it for, like, some noble reason. Like, they just want.
I'm not trying to do good.
Right. They're just like, hey, I like being a senator and a congressperson and whatever, right? So I'm not going to rock the boat too much. And also, I will say the scale of the drug trade or the amount of drugs that come over, like, I can't imagine that sending it by boat is the most efficient. Like, you can bomb your way out of this problem with these boats of like 6 people and 10 people and 12 people, right? So, like, what's the long-term strategy here? Just like, this is like a video game to them? Like, we're just going to blow off boats just randomly? Like, how is that going to stop anything?
I don't know. And I don't know why you would want to imbue in the individual of the president of the United States that sort of unilateral deciding authority.
Right. But I'm sure that the Supreme Court will find a way. It's like, the command
to decide with him on
this.
Yeah,
1,000%. They're going to come up with some sort of cockamamie, like, the chief exec, the commander in chief. They have powers, and then if they gave some flimsy notification in advance to Congress, that's sufficient, and it's totally fine. Like, I think that it'll be something like that. I don't see this being like a Supreme Court saying you can't do that thing.
Yeah, I mean, it would certainly require Congress to exercise its rightful authority here.
Right.
And we saw, I think, within just the last few days, the Republicans fell short of, or Democrats and a couple of Republicans fell short of doing anything like that.
Right.
At least through the Senate. I wanted to play just a quick clip from ABC News this week, Sunday morning, with George Stephanopoulos, the rare George Stephanopoulos appearance on the George Stephanopoulos Show. And he interviewed, I think that the vice president was on, he was definitely on with Maggie Brennan on CBS. I don't know if he was on any of the other ones, but made the rounds to some extent. And at the end of this interview, George Stephanopoulos is asking about the Tom Homan bribery scandal that sort of won't quite go away. There was a he received $50,000 in cash at a kava. Like in a bag, like just a bag of cash.
It's almost as cartoonish.
Kava is delicious.
It's almost as cartoonish as the Menendez situation, right? Like
the gold bars in his cabinet, in his clothes closet.
Yeah, that takes the cake. But yeah, like having just like a money just transferred in this way is kind of and you're
right. And it was before. I think it was after the election, but before he was part of the administration, right?
Right.
And it was some sort of an FBI sting where they were essentially seeing if he could be compromised or something. And that, like, no charges ever happened, at least as far as we know. And a lot of this stuff is still classified or still under wraps or whatever. Some of it has been leaked, and so it's not entirely out in the open. But the basic facts of it seem to be that Tom Homan, who's the border czar or whatever, and a real piece of work if you ever watch him interviewed, received a bag of cash for future favors to be named later, essentially, right? Like he got $50,000 in cash at a kava in order to be available to provide services in the future. And it's like, no matter, essentially, like you're saying about Menendez and the gold bars in his suit pockets in his closet, like nothing good ever happens after midnight or whatever. Yeah. Like there's no, like you can't make a deposit at your bank of like $3,000 without raising the suspicion, right? Like since 9/11, or like there's all sorts of weird laws about how much cash you're, right? Like you walk into an airport with $5,000 in cash in your pocket, and they're going to be, TSA is going to be like, oh yeah, we're going to keep that. Yeah. And you can maybe get it back after we finish our investigation, but probably not. It's just going to be civil forfeitured away from you, and there's nothing you can do about it. So, like, the idea that it's perfectly normal to just have a giant bag of cash for undisclosed services to be performed later is obviously absurd.
Right, and also, during the first Trump term, similarly, like during that transition period after election but before inauguration, was it Michael Flynn? There was some sort of situation where he called up Russia, like there was some sort of improper contact that he made, and he didn't. I think he ended up like losing his job because of it. Like
Michael Flynn.
And now, like it seems to be like the second Trump administration, like to demonstrate and assert power, the tactic has changed, right? Instead of saying like, Homan, that's too on the nose, and you have to kind of, they can do without Homan, right? Like, it's not like some integral part.
Right. No, they're at war at this point. Right. They will give no inch. Right. They will say that this is all a Democrat media conspiracy. Right. And this is Stephanopoulos talking to J.D. Vance about the thing that we're discussing.
George, you've covered the story ad nauseum. Tom Homan did not take a bribe. It's a ridiculous smear. And the reason you guys are going after Tom Homan so aggressively is because he's doing the job of enforcing the law. I think it's really preposterous. I know Tom. I think that he's a good man. He gets death threats. He gets attacked. He gets constantly threatened by people because he has the audacity to want to enforce the country's immigration laws. I think that it would be a much more interesting story about why is it that Tom Homan, who is simply enforcing Americans' immigration laws, is getting constantly harassed and threatened to the point of death threats. That's a much more interesting question that I think journalists should focus on. We can agree to disagree on that question.
Well, wait, you said he didn't take a bribe, but I'm not sure you answered the question. Are you saying that he did not accept the $50,000?
George, this story has been covered ad nauseum. He did not take a bribe. Did he accept $50,000? I'm sure that in the course of Tom Homan's life, he has been paid more than $50,000 for services. The question is, did he do something illegal? And there's absolutely no evidence that Tom Homan has ever taken a bribe or done anything illegal, which is why he's working in the administration.
I'm asking you, did he accept the $50,000 that was caught on the surveillance tape? Did he accept that $50,000 or not?
George, I don't know what you're talking about. Did he accept $50,000 for what?
He was recorded on an audio tape in September 2024, an FBI surveillance tape, accepting $50,000 in cash. Did he keep that money?
Accepting $50,000 for doing what, George? I'm not even sure I understand the question. Is it illegal to take a payment for doing services? The FBI has not prosecuted him. I've never seen any evidence that he's engaged in criminal wrongdoing. Nobody has accused Tom of violating a crime, even the far left media like yourself. So I'm actually not sure what the precise question is. Did he accept $50,000? Honestly, George, I don't know the answer to that question. What I do know is that he didn't violate a crime.
I want to pause that for a second. Wouldn't you have just gone to Tom and been like, yo, dog,
right,
what's up with the 50 grand in a paper bag you took at a kava? Right? Like, wouldn't that be a relevant question to ask a guy that you're charging with border czarring the United States of America? Like, isn't that a worthy, like, even if you think this is a total fucking bullshit witch hunt of some sort or another, like, imagine the audacity of saying, of what he's insisting here is that it's perfectly normal for a person to walk into a kava, a person of Tom Homan's stature, who's very smart and good at his job and who does wonderful services for people for many years.
He doesn't understand the question. It's like, you're breaking up. I can't hear you.
To walk into a kava and pick up a paper bag full of $50,000. Like, that's just normal. That's what normal and good Americans do, is what J.D. Vance is insisting here. To the point where I wouldn't even bother asking Tom Homan about that. That's not interesting to me. Of course he's picking up $50,000 bags of money in a brown paper bag at a kava.
For services. Like, what are those services?
So you don't, what was caught on the tape, you're saying right now you don't know whether or not he kept that money?
I don't know what tape you're referring to, George. I saw media reports that Tom Homan accepted a bribe. There's no evidence of that. And here's, George, why fewer and fewer people watch your program and why you're losing credibility. Because you're talking for now 5 minutes with the Vice President of the United States about this story regarding Tom Homan, a story that I've read about, but I don't even know the video that you're talking about. Meanwhile, low-income women can't get food because the Democrats and Chuck Schumer have shut down the government. Right now, we're trying to figure out how to pay our troops because Chuck Schumer has shut down the government. You are focused on a bogus story. You're insinuating criminal wrongdoing against a guy who has done nothing wrong instead of focusing on the fact that our country is struggling because our government's shut down. Let's talk about the real issues, George. I think the American people would benefit much more from that than from you going down some weird left-wing rabbit hole where the facts clearly show that Tom Homan didn't engage in any criminal wrongdoing.
It's not a weird left-wing rabbit hole. I didn't insinuate anything. I asked you whether Tom Homan accepted $50,000, as was heard on an audio tape recorded by the FBI in September 2024, and you did not answer the question. Thank you for your time this morning.
No, George, I said that I don't.
Up next, we'll be right back.
And Stephanopoulos just throws to commercial instead of allowing J.D. Vance to talk. That is the perfect way to deal with this nonsense. I know it will be seen and talked about in right-wing media as somehow Stephanopoulos being disrespectful to the vice president, and it's more left-wing Stephanopoulos bias or whatever. But in my opinion, that level of simply stating the fact and then ignoring the bullshit afterwards and just saying, look, you're not going to answer my questions. We're just going to say goodbye now.
And he did exhaust.
What would have been the point of continuing to engage in that conversation?
And he did exhaust that line of questioning because he asked them repeatedly. So it's not like after J.D. Vance tried to do a little dance, did he say, well, fuck off and go to commercial? Like there was some back and forth, and when it became apparent that there wasn't going to be any sort of answer to the direct question posed, it's like, well, that's that, you know.
Right.
I think I saw a clip of Trump like making fun of like Stephanopoulos about this. Like he was saying that it was him that paid him the millions of dollars, not like ABC. Like I got him to pay, like So for whatever that's worth.
I have like sincere concerns about J.D. Vance's political future in a way. Like I worry about our country if J.D. Vance is the future of MAGA or the future of the Trump movement. Like if he is the rightful heir to it, he is creepily good at being whatever it is he needs to be in order to get to the next thing. And what we have shown, what the American appetite has shown is that we want the next thing to be increasingly awful. At every turn, essentially, for a long time now, the American appetite is for increasingly awful things. And J.D. Vance is adept at finding what that awful thing is and becoming it, right? He comes from relatively nothing, right? And he did what he thought he was supposed to do to get out of relative nothingness and then move on to the next thing. And in order to become the senator from Ohio, he had to perform a certain kind of awfulness, and he did so. And in order to be the vice president of the United States, he had to perform another sort of awfulness, and he did so. The eating the cats, eating the dogs thing is straight from J.D. Vance, right? Trump took it and ran with it and made it worse in obvious Trumpy sort of ways. But J.D. Vance is, I won't say uniquely, but specifically and weirdly gifted at being the thing that he needs to be to satisfy what is called for in that moment in order to gain more power, right? In order to gain more power and influence. And that is worrisome to me. This is not a person who has sincere ideological positions about anything. He's simply become what he's needed to become to move on to the next thing. And he's good at it. And he's a smarmy fuck. And I can't fucking stand him. I look at his face and I can't stand him. So I have that going against me in terms of my ability to objectively assess him, to be perfectly clear in my own biases here. But he's scary to me in a way that like Marco Rubio is simply not. Marco Rubio is doing the expedient thing also, and is willing to do things that I think a younger Marco Rubio would be horrified by. But I think there's still something in Marco Rubio that would bristle against the grosser appetites of the mob in search of more power, right? Like I still think there's something inside Marco Rubio that says I won't do literally anything for more power and influence, and I don't see that in J.D. Vance.
I see Rubio and Vance, this Rubio in the same light. Maybe past Rubio, I could see what you're getting at, but I don't see them too different. The one, it remains to be seen what happens with Vance, because if the economy or the political environment is like sour going into 27, 28, it'll be Vance who'll be holding the bag of this, right, this second Trump term, because he'll be the one running in the primary. So like he will be eating all the shit, and someone that's another Republican type would have a better chance to survive, right? Because he would have to answer for what happened in the last, 3-4 years, right? So like if everything's humming along, then it'll be to his.
Will he though? Will they have done such a spectacular job? To be clear, it is not persuasive to me or to the majority of Americans who have a strong disapproval rating of Donald Trump and his administration. But among the Trump faithful, which is all you need to be elected, right, essentially in this country, is an enduring belief that everything that's going wrong here is the fault of Democrat mayors and Democrat governors. And as recently as just, I think, yesterday or the day before, the Trump administration blaming Joe Biden for what's going on in the economy, right? Like still blaming this economy on Joe Biden. We are 10 months or whatever into the second Trump presidency here, and we are still blaming Joe Biden for the economy, despite him taking as broad and expansive a role in attempting to shape this economy as any president in modern history. Right, in terms of the trade wars and the tariffs that he's doing, like a person who is attempting through the sheer force and power and will of the American presidency and claiming for it more power and rights than any previous president could have imagined. He's attempting to steer that bus at the same time that he's insisting that it's all still Joe Biden's fault. So I think that is so foundational to the ethos here of the Trump side of things that he won't have to take responsibility for what's gone on. Will it be absurd for him not to? Of course it will be absurd. When has that stopped them in the past?
But it will be J.D. Vance that will have to make the case, right? I don't imagine Trump will be out there stumping for him in the primaries. He'll probably just say, let it run its course. And so, again, it just all depends on what the environment will look like after the midterms. Like, if it looks like it's...
You don't see J.D. Vance as meaningfully scarier than Marco Rubio?
I know. I mean, like, I think that... Because they're both doing similar things now, right? So they're both capable of...
I think this is probably just a function of you having just as low opinion of Marco Rubio as I do of J.D. Vance, right?
Yes. Especially the way that Rubio has behaved in the last 10 months. Like I'm not surprised by J.D. Vance.
Right. I think that's fair. I think the fall of Rubio into this is more surprising than J.D. Vance turning into this. I'll grant you that. But still, I believe that he had somewhere to fall from, I guess, is all I'm getting at here. And I'm not sure that J.D. Vance ever had anywhere from which he was falling. He was always this grasping and wanting and chameleon-like figure.
I'm gonna boot up my my theory that Tucker Carlson's gonna throw his hat in the ring. Like I said before, in 24, I was off by 4 years. He's gonna be like some sort of outside, change agent or something. Like they're all the same. Blah blah blah. Vote for me. That kind of nonsense. Like some sort of populist message that he'll try to commandeer from Trump.
Yeah. All right, it's now time to play America's favorite game show. It's now time for America's favorite game show. Did Mark Strassmann, CBS News' senior national correspondent, get off a good one?
Or we can have a biomedical security state. And I can tell you, Florida, we're a free state.
Free state. Costly approach.
Strassmann gets off a good one.
Another negative, surging positivity rates.
Ooh, sorry, Mark. Try again next time. In which we listen to a report by the great Mark Strassmann of CBS News to determine whether or not he got off a good one. We're gonna do this. We're gonna do this blind because what I saw was the headline, and I have to say, Strassmann, a man who once said that there's no vaccine for COVID-era racism, before going into a talk about spa shooting there in the greater Atlanta area. A man who used to get off good ones regularly and with absolutely no regard for whether or not this was an appropriate time.
Subject matter did not matter, right? Yeah, the subject matter did not matter at all.
He's fallen from that perch. But then I saw this headline, and it says, "These senior women love cleaning trash from ponds on Cape Cod." And I have to say, if Mark Strassmann does not or cannot get off multiple good ones in a 3-minute story that has the headline, "These senior women love cleaning trash from ponds on Cape Cod," then I think we're going to have to reevaluate his place of primacy in this situation. Like he might have to become some sort of like an emeritus role in this game, and we'll simply have to look elsewhere.
It'd be like Snitker, right?
That's right, for good ones.
Talk about a gross domestic product. America produces nearly 5 pounds of trash per person per day. Some of it winds up in our waterways. Fortunately, though, a group of women is ready to dive in and clean up. Here's Mark Strassmann with Eye on America.
This area right here, in and around the dock.
Welcome to the shore of a different world, the zen of garbage. We met a group called OLOG, Old Ladies Against Underwater Garbage. They're all at least 65, passed a swim test, enjoy diving outside their comfort zone in the ponds that dot Cape Cod.
You have no idea what you're going to see, and you have no idea what you're going to feel.
Susan Bauer, now 85, formed the group 7 years ago. They have a waiting list of 50 women.
You have an interesting relationship with garbage.
We do. And if you don't, when you join, you do within about an hour.
13 women in wetsuits, 6 kayaks to haul back whatever they find. Since 2018, That's 3 tons of trash.
Literally, we found the kitchen sink, or it's a blue toilet. Every dive is an adventure, and people are hungry for that.
But the other treasure hunt is for what they feel.
You are in a kind of Zen state, at one with the water.
And whatever you were thinking about on the drive over, worrying about on the drive over.
That's all gone.
Gone.
Gone. Yeah.
We met Maggie McGaw and Allison Leshin.
It's like the greatest cocktail ever. It's a cocktail of friendship, of laughter, of joy, of magic, of purpose.
Gotta say, garbage is not an ingredient in most cocktails.
People just don't know what they're missing.
Until they find it. Psychologists call that feeling the flow and say we could all use it.
Flow is a mental state.
Caroline Stanley teaches psychology at Bridgewater State.
Part of the flow experience is feeling that you're connected to something much larger to yourself, and that brings on this sense of meaning and purpose in your life.
We don't know what some of the stuff is that
Canoe paddles, lots of golf balls, a rudder and tiller, all part of the haul from the 22nd pond they've cleaned this year.
We are in the zone. And to be in the zone in a foreign world, in a new land, is pretty damn wonderful.
Here you go. What do we got? Heavy.
And in those ponds, they keep proving every ebb has its flow.
Good job. Good job.
For Eye on America, I'm Mark Strassmann in Sandwich, Massachusetts.
All right, Abe. Did Mark Strassmann, senior national news correspondent for CBS News, get off a good one?
He did. I will say, though, Maurice Dubois got a great one at the top. Talk about gross domestic product.
Strassmann gets off a good one. Yeah, that was pretty good. I don't want to say there are 2 kinds of people in this world, but when this report took a turn from the old ladies in their kayaks and wetsuits fishing plastic out of local ponds to the expert at the psychology department of whatever the fuck university that they went to talking about flow state as though it's a real thing, right? As though we like it's a quirk or like there's something that you can investigate in the real physical world that can be explained by or explains the behavior of or the feelings of these women. There are 2 kinds of people in this world. There are people who nod their heads sagely and say, "Oh, I didn't realize that there was science behind this." And then there are people, normal, good people, who say, "Oh, that's all bullshit."
Well, there is such thing as flow state, Bob. In sports, that's what when these players get into this hot streak, like Steph Curry, they don't use flow state as a term, but once everything kind of slows down and they're kind of in this state of I can't miss, or I can hit anything. Like
and I think that there's a way of accepting that. I've experienced being in the zone before.
Right, the zone. Yeah, that's a more common way to define it.
Not with a basketball, right? I've never been Michael Jordan on the basketball court and thought I could take this tiny little ball in my hand and throw it up, and it's as though the basket is 50 feet in diameter, right? Like that's the way that they describe it when you're in the zone. But I've sat in front of a computer screen and written for half an hour and realized, oh, wow, this is going really well for a short amount of time. I'm really in the zone right now, that sort of thing. But the idea that is something that is something worthy of study that can somehow be quantified or qualified and studied in that way, and then we can refer to experts that believe that what is happening with these ladies when they're on kayaks and in wetsuits in the pond is flow.
That's why that lady's still alive, 85 and going strong.
What the fuck is she talking about here?
Psychologists call that feeling the flow and say we could all use it.
Flow is a mental state.
Caroline Stanley teaches psychology at Bridgewater State.
Part of the flow experience is feeling that you're connected to something much larger to yourself, and that brings on this sense of meaning and purpose in your life.
That's ridiculous. It's simply not a rational explanation for what's going on with these people here. And I would like to posit something. I would like to posit that Mark Strassmann wrote this.
And in those ponds, they keep proving every ebb has its flow.
Good job.
He wanted the kicker to be, and in these ponds, every ebb has its flow. And then he went and found a way to work this notion of flow into his reporting here.
Right. I think that is likely. Now that you kind of see the whole picture, he probably did work backwards. Because, like, it was kind of shoehorned in. Like, he could have made this just about, like, community and, like, you know, whatever. But, like, flow, this is not how I would describe it. Like, I mean, you just...
Imagine you walk up to this pond and there are 20 65-plus-year-old women in wetsuits and on kayaks on this dirty pond, and they're fishing disgusting trash out of the pond. And Strassmann's thought upon witnessing this is these chicks are really in the zone.
How else would you fish out a kitchen sink and the like? You know, you need to be in the zone. Also, did they say that there's like a waiting list of like 50 plus? Like, that's gonna be awkward circling back to that waiting list, and you find out you have to cross people off because you know they're old and they're no longer hanging around. Yeah, that's
yeah.
Well, good on them though. You know, imagine being 78 and it's like I need to start a new endeavor. And you've been doing it for 7 years? That's a good forward thinking by that lady.
I'm all for what they're doing here, right? I'm all for everything that they're doing here. I bump up against that became an expert's say out of nowhere.
By the way, this Bridgewater State University has an acceptance rate of 89%. I don't know if that's good or bad, but they seem to be very welcoming.
I think that we spent an hour or more, or I spent an hour or more bemoaning the state of the world and the way that we interact with our technology and media. And I think it can almost all be traced back to the insistence over the course of the 20th century that psychology is a science and is real. And it's basically not. It is a close 12% more retarded cousin of philosophy. That's all the entire field of psychology is. But for some reason, it's been given the imprimatur of real science, and it's simply not. It's just the slightly more retarded cousin of philosophy.
It's a soft science to be sure, but you know how else to explain the behavior of humans, right? You know, we're not robots. People behave in very weird ways. So
what has it actually accomplished?
Oh no, it's still early days, you know. But the jury is not in yet. I don't know if you can write them off just yet. Give them 50 more years. They'll figure it out.
I won't say all of social science, but almost all of social science and the vast majority of social psychology is just bullshit. Like just people making shit up in order to explain the world and human behavior that is immediately proven wrong, like by the next person who's just making more shit up.
But that's part of the...
How is it different than philosophy?
This is what I'm saying.
But
it's been given a place of primacy and
okay, but can you admit
in our
then
culture
that philosophy is also bullshit?
Philosophy is a worthy pursuit that does not make claims, definitive claims.
It seems to be all that
to explaining.
This has been America's favorite game show. Did Mark Strassmann, CBS News' senior national correspondent, get off a good one?
You've been listening to Cast Iron Brains, a podcast with Bob and Abe. Lori's here too. I don't usually say that on this one, but if you're going to pipe up and be all snarky, you get blamed as well. Find the show on Substack, brainiron.substack.com, for more from us, including the much more enjoyable Cast Iron Balls, where I yell about Kirby Smart and his various ways on the football field, and the Billboard Hot 100 game, and the Philip K. Dickquisition, and all sorts of other things we podcast far too much around here. brainiron.substack.com for that. The opening and closing themes of the show were composed by Mark Gillig. Tetramermusic.com, Tetramer music.com. For more from Mark. Abe have you made it to the movies recently?
Yes, I went to go see Roofman, starting
what?
Channing Tatum. Do you guys remember the mid-aughts? This is around the Bush years. The Iraq War, Afghanistan War was going on. There was also this criminal who would rob from fast food chains such as McDonald's, not through the door, but from the rooftop. He would like break in from the roof and go down.
I don't remember this.
This
as
is
a,
all
as a
over
true
the
crime
news.
Story. Can I ask you a sidebar question here, real quick? How many Channing Tatum movies have you missed in the last decade or so? You seem to be a big fan of Channing Tatum.
I don't know if
big fan of Chan.
I've never seen any of his the dancing movies. I've never seen those. I've seen like the 21 Jump Street.
The lady doth protest too much.
Yeah, I did see Blink twice last year. I've seen the 21 and 22 Jump Streets, but I've not seen, like I said, any of the Magic Mike. So yeah, even it's a good mix. Anyways, this movie is based on a true story. So this guy would steal from fast food restaurants such as McDonald's. He gets arrested. He breaks out of jail, out of prison, in this very clever way. And then instead of like fleeing, there's like this expectation that he's going to take the highways and then he'll be captured because they have all these road checks, And so what he does instead is, I'm going to stay put. He hides in a Toys R Us for months. So no one knows he's there. He's hiding in a Toys R Us for months. And again, this actually did happen. Because at the end of the movie, they show you the real life person. But I do recall it. It was like somewhere in the Carolinas. Anyways,
I would like to say it's always lame when you show me the real life person at the end of the movie.
But
I don't do
it was such a preposterous story that there's no way. They must have embellished, took some artistic license here and there, but almost they had to do away with some things. So he also broke into like a Circuit City or something, and they're like, fuck it, we'll just stick with a Toys R Us. Anyways, he not only hides out in this Toys R Us, he befriends some woman, he gets romantically involved. He goes to her church. He's hanging around with the kids. And again, this happened in real life, and that's how. In the meantime, he's living out of the Toys R Us. But he tells her he's in town because what's this guy doing in this random town? And he's like, he works for the federal government. He works for the intelligence services. He can't really go into detail. And I guess back then that was good enough. People did not, ask any more probing questions other than, I can't get into it because it's national security. So that was his cover. No one asked any further questions. And then he would, to sustain himself, he would eat, the junk food. He would also steal all of the video games and pawn it off, tens of thousands of dollars worth. There was whoever the manager was at that Toys R Us, very poor management. How do you not notice that you're losing that much inventory?
Not great inventory control.
Anyways, he does this for months, and then he gets ensnared into a trap to where he, the girl that he's been going at, this woman that he's been dating, who's got kids of her own, the police are like, hey, this is the guy that broke out of jail, and she gets him to come to her apartment, but it was a trap, and he gets arrested. And then at the end of the movie, he's like, I learned my lesson. I belong here in prison. And then at the end, they said he tried to break out 2 more times, and he's eligible for parole in 2036. I imagine that initial parole hearing is going to go well. He's attempted to flee 3 times, 1 time successfully. He's not going to get out the first time. Maybe.
Is the movie any good?
It's a little bit long. It's 2 hours plus, and they try to make him a sympathetic character. He was a war veteran, and he didn't know his place in the world, and he's smart, but he's an idiot. So he could do things, but for whatever reason he kept on fucking up. And the way the movie I'm not saying they were blaming the kids, but the children, he had 3 kids, and his oldest, his daughter, she wanted a bike, and he couldn't afford a bike. And the movie kind of implies that he got into this life of crime to make sure that his kids have enough stuff so that they're not thinking, oh, my dad's a deadbeat, basically that's what was motivating his behavior, which is not. I can't imagine that's true.
Yeah.
But anyways.
Yeah, it sounds like relatively fun fare.
Interesting movie, yeah. And they had Kirsten Dunst play the love interest. Actually, it's weird. What's his face? Peter Dinklage is the inept Toys R Us manager. He starts to suss out. He's like, man, what happened to all my M&Ms? You know, like he was growing wise to the fact that he was losing count of the M&Ms, and then later on, he's like, something's happening with my video games. But he's in there. The girl from that Apple show, Ted Lasso's in it. Like, there were a lot of people like in this movie for some reason. But yeah, I mean, whenever it comes on streaming, it's worth a watch. But it was interesting enough.
All right, well, that's good. Anything else besides football?
Nothing besides football.
All right. Our entire lives at this point are youth sport and collegiate sport and then some professional sport. So nothing interesting to say about what we're consuming in the culture. Abe, have you got anything else for us tonight?
Nope.
I guess that's all we've got for you tonight then, and we will talk to you next time.
Later.
I couldn't help but notice, listening back to yesterday's episode while I did the edit, how spectacularly wrong you were about Kirby's mindset. And,
yeah, you're wrong.
The thinking there.
Well, is more information come to light?
Nope, you're just wrong.
You're just wrong.
There's a lot
you're just wrong.
I will note that there are a lot of obnoxious non-Georgia fans that are running away with. They're making a lot of stupid online content around it. Like there was one where Kirby is at church in the pews and he's like praying, but he's like doing the timeout signal instead of applauding or whatever. Like,
yeah, there's lots of comedy to be made about this.
People are turning it into like that. This is revelatory of his character in a way that is like revelatory that he is shitty, basically.
That's right. Yeah, I don't think it's got anything to do with that. It's not a low character thing unless he was intentionally trying to deceive What were those replacement refs that the NFL had for a couple of days because of some labor negotiations? Like if it was taking advantage of some inexperienced ref, that would be bad.
I'm waiting a liberal-leaning sports newsy journalist, sort
Keith
of like
Olbermann.
All right, Keith
That's
Olbermann's not bad.
The first person that popped in my head too.
To make the argument that this was a power disparity play, that Kirby behaved as a colonizer essentially, because he has such a vast more amount of power than does the referee.
The lowly ref who's just trying
on the sideline, because he makes so much money, you see, and he's a powerful SEC coach, and that guy is just merely a zebra down there on the sideline.
That's true. I can't imagine anyone making that point, but that would be hilarious.
Yes, I want the new the Marxist modernist appeal to the power disparity there. I think that'd be great.
I know this is not the sports recap show, but if the Ole Miss game goes sideways, I can imagine Lance Kiffin making a mockery out of he'll be applauding in the timeout gesture to mock Georgia. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I'm sure.
He's the sort that would do that sort of thing.
Yeah.
What are we gonna do tonight?
Talk more about sports.
I was almost. I should get credit, by the way, for the Commanders yesterday. Like they were winning until they started losing.
They lost.
Yeah, no, but like
last-minute field goal, as I recall. You should get credit for that.
Yes, because some stupid fumble that happens in sports. I should get credit for the directional rightness of my pick. You know, they were winning.
A team that was favored to win lost. And you want credit.
That's right.
Jimmy's crawling up your ass right now, Abe.
I am now not
nipping at your heels.
The proceeding was created with 100% human content.